the political crisis in Rivers State continues to escalate as fresh allegations surface against the suspended governor Siminalayi Fubara. In a recent development, former head of service George Nwaeke accused Governor Fubara of financial misappropriation and allegedly inciting violence against the state and its infrastructure. Nwaeke also implicated the chief of staff Edison Ehie in his claims. However, both Fubara and Ehie have strongly denied the accusations, alleging that Nwaeke has been compromised. Well, Binga, you have more report on that as well.
Yes, responding to the allegations, Chief of Staff Edison Ehie made a revelation claiming that he was offered 5 billion naira to orchestrate Governor Fubara's impeachment. Ehie insists he has evidence on his phone. Meanwhile, stakeholders in Rivers State, including leaders of the Ijaw ethnic group, have condemned the situation, emphasizing that a peaceful resolution through open dialogue would have been preferable to discussions about a state of emergency.
Joining us this morning to discuss the ongoing situation in Rivers State is the President, Ijaw National Congress Global, Professor Benjamin Ogele Okaba. Good morning, sir. Thank you very much for joining us. We also have with us the founder of TAF Foundation, Mr. J.K. Pele. Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us, sir.
Good morning, Nigerians. It's great to be here, far away in Germany.
All right, great to have you join us. Let's start with you, Mr. Pele, and start with the allegations. First of all, the resignation of the former head of service, and the allegations that he made against Governor Fubara. Did you see these allegations coming from him? And what are your thoughts about them?
Well, everyone have a right to make claims and lay claims. Whether it is true or not will be based on evidence. It's unfortunate that the former head of service, who was part of Fubara's administration, who were critics of Nwaeke, has cross-carpeted. It's his right to do so, but also I think he should be mindful of the claims that he's making. As long as he has concrete evidence, then those claims will hold waters. But if he doesn't, it doesn't hold waters. It looks to me like something that is stage managed. There's been videos making rounds that some of his, in fact, the first press conference was done from a hotel that they claim belongs to Nwaeke. His body language, I'm a communication specialist. His body language and the way and manner he presents his statements and claims looks like something that is induced. He looks to me like a masquerade that is dancing and someone else is beating the drum somewhere. But I think these guys have to understand the fact that they are destroying the states, the very states that produced them, the very process that gave them opportunity, the very people that through whom they became what they are. And so whatever you do, when you put yourself first and put others last, you will end up destroying others. And I think we need to stop. Nwaeke should call his people to order. Fubara should call his people to order. We have one river state, and that state is bigger than anybody and everybody. And I think we need to take that into consideration. That will be my opening statement.
Let me go straight to Professor Okaba. Professor Okaba, do you also in any way agree with what, of course, our guest has also said, that that video we did see looks like it was staged? And even if it was staged, what do you think could be the reason why someone who had, minute fences with Governor Fubara decides to all of a sudden change and, become an antagonist, as it were?
Thank you very much. First and foremost, I think I am in sync with the statements made by my colleague here on these on those what we call it videos that showed that actually portrayed the former head of service. You can you see that is state managed. Look at his looking like somebody under duress. Compared to this same man in other gatherings, I know him very well. He's a very intelligent, very vibrant scholar, very vibrant scholar. And so when you do a comparison between the videos that were taken in that hotel and its outward shows on other places, even praising the Fubara administration. In one of them, he did mention that this was the very best that has happened to Rivers State. It's very, very obvious that he was induced. Now, beyond the inducement, let us look at the content of the statements he made. First of all, he alleged that he was present when the governor had meetings with Bala Mohammed and some politicians and all that. Now, you definitely, those of you who are very conversant with political engineering, if the governor, if you look at the hierarchy of political classing or categorization, is so far beyond the group of persons that should have such a meeting. He's not deputy governor, he's not speaker, he's not, he does not also belong to the cartel. As chief of staff, he was a permanent secretary, he was a civil servant that was elevated to that position. So no government will bring in a chief of staff to such sensitive discussions. So that is one. Then when you talk about monies being paid here, it's also not working in the account section. It's not the accountant general of the state. No, that doesn't have any information about finances in the place. You know. Then so so that is so. Then again, when you go back to the other claims about bumping, and that he made allegations that governor spearheaded the bumping and all that. Those are very sensitive issues that he can, even if the governor did, he cannot have any knowledge about them. Now, we have said earlier before that the body language and the statements of Nwaeke in recent times were very clear. He said, I'm going to make Rivers State ungovernable unless Fubara dances to my tune, unless Fubara comes to his knee. And when he used those very strong words, it meant anything and everything, including inciting the assembly members to ensure that it's removed, including influencing whoever needed to take any position that was vital on making Fubara leave office abruptly. And that also includes the bumping, because a man said that if we just are saying they are the only people that can bump, I also, equated people can also bump. And the next 24 hours, bumping took place. Okay. And I ask this question again. If as the president said, the bumping was part of the efforts put in place by those who said if you remove Fubara, we are going to bump. Now, if that was actually the case, why has the bumping not continued after it's removed? Fubara has been removed. Fubara has been suspended. People said if you suspend Fubara, we are going to bump. Right? Now, after the suspension, the pumping has ceased. Why not look the other way? Those who said we're going to make the state uncomfortable so that we can attract the federal government's attention to the insecurity situation as a reason for declaring a state of emergency. So for me, it is obvious that it's a cooked up, well orchestrated, but not properly coordinated, because they are, even amongst themselves, they know that this is an error. Instead of getting the sympathy of whoever they want to get, it is making.
Professor Okaba,
it is, yes.
If I may come in here, please, just quickly, before we move to Mr. J. Capella in Germany. The Ijaw Nation, the INC, which you're the president of, has made several statements in the past since the declaration of a state of emergency, and I believe you met a few days ago with elders of the Ijaw Nation. Is there any resolution or communique that has been given with regards to the declaration of the state of emergency and moving the state forward? Several things have happened since that declaration of state of emergency. The sole administrator just recently sacked political appointees. What's the official position of the INC on this?
Yeah, the official position of the INC, which is contained in a communique that was issued after that very strategic meeting, was issued, and the allies of that communique will include one, the condemnation of the declaration or proclamation of a state of emergency, because the Ijaw Nation felt that there was actually no reason, particularly the reasons adduced by the president were not cogent or tangible enough. Because here you're talking about pipeline vandalization across the entire country. Entire country. There are more serious issues that actually warrant declaring of state of emergency. So for us, it was just targeted at the removal of the governor of Rivers State, which actually was the intention. It was only what Nwaeke had prayed for. And only recently, 16 men were killed in Edo State, in Osun State, and so many other places. In fact, in Zamfara State, lawmakers have not been paid for quite some months. So we have pockets of similar and worse situations. The question is, why selective about declaration of state of emergency? Then, number two, thereafter, we have a sole administrator appointed, which again is constitutional, following whatever. And again, if you look at the sole administrator, go to the background, we've seen pictures of the sole administrator and Nwaeke, meaning that there's a relationship of some kind of acquaintance. And it means, therefore, that Nwaeke has had in appointing who should replace Fubara and all that. Now, the kudos point to note is that the president will always say it's for peace. If it's for peace, you have two of your children fighting. You tie the hands, two hands of one of them to the back, and you allow the other to be punching the other. That is very, very unfair. If you know, in the peace process, there must be balancing. Now, when I talk about punches, Fubara and Nwaeke have been fighting. We all know. Now, all the judgments, all the body language, all the statements have always been against Fubara. President has never said anything that Nwaeke has done wrong. Well, even when Pandef went to him.
At this point, and I completely see where you're coming from, because majority of the arguments or conversations we've seen about this would be to the president applauding former Governor Nwaeke and saying, you know, the conversation about the removal from Treasury single account, and just basically applauding the work he's done or he's doing. And it doesn't seem like there might be any punitive measures now or in the nearest future. We really do not know. But I want to bring Mr. Epele into the conversation and talk about the implications of the allegations first by Judge Nwaeke. Do these have grave implications on the support that the people of Rivers State have given to Governor Siminalayi Fubara? Because right after the suspension of the governor, we did see that he amassed massive support from the people of Rivers State, even with our Vox Pop and the interactions we had with some of the elders. Does he still garner this same level of support from the elders, even with all that's going on?
Thank you for that question. First of all, I want to say that I'm very proud of my president. I served in that communique committee that produced that statement that he had just succinctly summarized. I am very proud of Profs and the stand. Whether the Nwaeke, the guy who just cross-carpeted to become a pro-Wike after he has sucked the Fubara administration, he was the head of service. And I think the entire state should hold him accountable and double check every expenditure that he made, all the money that was given to him. He should be able to come out and account for them. Whatever claim he has made and whatever that he is saying has no bearing at all. First, he doesn't have credibility. His statement lacks credibility. His personality lacks credibility. His body language is zero credibility. And so it doesn't have any impact on the people that is supporting Fubara. And for heaven's sake, this is not just about Fubara and the support he's getting. It's about the people. You know, no matter what they do, the Rivers people are resilient. Rivers people are peace-loving. Rivers people stands for what is right. The more they push this narrative, the more they stand on this false allegation, the more they take a stand on this unconstitutional measure that they are taking. I mean, look at the more they do all of that, the more support Fubara garners. However, it's also pertinent to mention here that this very sole administrator that I can boldly describe as illegal, unconstitutional, is destroying the very fabric of democracy. First, he has gone to appoint a northerner. I'm not a tribalist, but however, are there no good people of River State that would have served that purpose? Why add salt to injury? He's totally removed all the political appointees. These are people that were appointed based on a legal, someone who has the mandate of the people. Yes, you will argue that he's been suspended. Therefore, all his appointees may not necessarily. Go ahead.
You said he's destroying the fabrics of democracy. Some people have said he's dismantling the political structure of Siminalayi Fubara. Would you agree with them? Especially because that was the same conversation when Nwaeke and Siminalayi Fubara's drama started about Sim Fubara dismantling Nwaeke's political structure.
Well, I don't know. I'm more focused on the democracy in its holistically. When you begin to destroy the outcome of democratic process, you are invariably destroying democracy in itself. It's also very important here to mention that I'm taken aback by the fact that this president who stood for democracy, who laid down his life for democracy, who exited this country just to hold on to the tenets of democracy, is turning around to do the very opposite. That is what is surprising to me when it comes to the president and what he has done. The point is, let's not even cry over spilled milk. The milk has already been spilled. Can we remedy the situation? Can we bring sanity to the entire process? Yes, we can, if the president is willing. And there is no other better way to put it than the way my president, the Ijaw Nation President Global, has put it in context. Restore this man back to his mandated position. Restore democracy. Let us do everything possible to ensure that the Rivers people will not continue to suffer, that democratic dividends that have already been garnered will not be eroded. You know, when things like this happen, I can only describe it as a rape on democracy. And this nonsense must stop. This nonsense must stop, because it is our people, the Rivers people, and every time they push my button, I move to tears. This nonsense must stop, you know? And it's a shame on all the people perpetuating this thing, because they do have cousins, brothers, mothers, fathers. Nwaeke's father is still living in Port Harcourt. His mother is still living in Port Harcourt. But here's what people don't know. They are not in support of what he's doing. And so when your father is against you and your mother is against you, that leaves a lot to be desired. You know, when your cousins are against you, that leaves a lot to be desired. This is not casting aspersion on Nwaeke, but I'm saying that he has what it takes to put a stop to this nonsense. How long will you continue to show the people that you are the emperor? And by the way, who made you an emperor? The people are greater than this individual, and you cannot hold the entire state, you know, on their jugular. We need to breathe. And please, let's use this opportunity to tell the president that enough is enough. This is the state that makes it possible for you to fly around in the private jet. This is one of the states that makes it possible for Aso Rock to run. This is one of the states that makes it possible for the country to thrive. We must not face this level of injustice. It is not acceptable. And the whole world is watching. And one day, every history will judge us right or wrong. Let me end by saying that, Mr. President, if you're watching this or any of your people are watching this, don't let this be part of your legacy. Do not let this be part of, don't allow people to remember that this is part of your legacy. They say you're known for two things, the problem you solve or the problem you created. Please be known for the problem you solve. Thank you.
All right. Anyway,
yeah.
I think we've gotten your points, but just before we wrap up, I'd like to ask Professor just one last question here from us. Professor, are there any plans to meet with the sole administrator, especially looking at the elders, the stakeholders in Ijaw? Have there been plans? Have you all decided to meet with him, to have a sit-down, a tete-a-tete, or a conversation?
Because it's an illegal entity as far as we are concerned. So meeting with him, we give legitimacy to his person and those rubbish he's perpetrating. Let me just go further to say that so many punches beyond removing and replacing persons appointed by the other person. So it's very, very illegal. So moving forward, just like you rightly said, we must have the president prioritize the interest of the people. Democracy is about the people, it's not about the individual. Ijaw people have said it earlier that Mr. President should choose between Ijaw people and Nwaeke. Nwaeke has insulted us publicly. Nwaeke has said all kinds of things, boasting, and it is all obvious that he's doing all that because he has the tacit support of Mr. President. How can a president sit as president and allow one of your ministers to demean a nation? One of the four largest ethnic nationalities in this country. To a drunkard to make such statements, and Mr. President cannot just call it to order. So we feel that Nwaeke is delivering a message from Mr. President. Because if he keeps quiet, and he continues to keep quiet, just like we said earlier, there will be consequences. Already there is a dent on Mr. President's democratic credentials. The entire world now knows him as somebody who is not in charge, that he has handed over this country to one cantankerous human being who decides to do whatever I feel like doing, publicly and otherwise. So, but we are still on the path of peace. We are still on the path of peace. Mr. President should do the needful, which will include
Prof, I want
the
us to
immediate
speak about
restoration
Prof,
of order,
if I may
and that
interject.
order can only come.
All right. I mean,
Order
you have said
can
that we're
only
still on the... Prof, can you
by
hear us?
bringing back Fubara and bringing about the democratically elected institutions in Rivers State.
Prof,
They are definitely there are differences. They can talk to themselves. Mr. President can even call on them together and say, look, what are your demands? What are their issues? As a father, without even external intervention, he can call them and say, look, if you needed 5 items in the interest of peace, have 2. They can harmonize.
I think that is the essence. Prof,
yes.
but the president intervened earlier. And when
yes.
the president intervened, the president was criticized for meddling in the affairs of Rivers State. So what difference will it make if the president intervenes now?
Now, when you say meddling, right, it is meddling at the point of providing support to one individual against the other. There's nothing wrong. When Lagos State had crisis, he called the parties together and they resolved it peacefully. He did not allow somebody with a superior power to oppress and suppress and intimidate the other person. People called it meddling because they saw him using federal power, imposing federal power on one and allowing the same person to break down on an institution. That's what we're saying. And again, in all of this, it's very clear that Nwaeke is doing this to satisfy Mr. President, is to give Mr. President that assurance that come 2027, I am in charge of not just Rivers State, but everywhere.
But Prof,
everywhere in the South.
Prof, permit me to interject.
You know?
Prof, sorry, because we're running out of time. I mean, we appreciate your comments, but would also appreciate if you could just make it a bit shorter so we can get more out of this conversation in the last 5 minutes that we have now. I do have some questions, and my colleagues also have some questions to ask. But my question to you is, I know I did ask if you plan to have any meeting with the sole administrator. Your response seems to be a no, meaning that he is not recognized by the stakeholders and elders as one that they would go have a meeting with. Well, my next question is, what do you say about the Bayelsa State Governor who has come out to warn the FCT minister not to trespass into Bayelsa as well? Are the Ijaw, so to say, the council, are they also in support of that statement made by the governor of Bayelsa State?
Very well. I'm sure you've heard the Ijaw Youth Council, which is the youth wing of the INC, made very clear statements because one, though at some point people see it as political, but we are talking about the security of lives and property. The young man who is trying to convene that meeting is known. I don't want to disparage anybody in the public. It's known as somebody who does not have any character. Then his intention is to incite crisis in Bayelsa State. Again, Nwaeke had said it earlier that any governor that is not in support of this thing is going to make that place ungovernable. So the Bayelsa State government had made that pronouncement after meeting with his service chiefs and evaluating the security implications of all of that. So we are in sync with the Bayelsa State government. In fact, we are going to support it to ensure that there will not be any crisis. In fact, as I talk to you, I'm praying very seriously to Almighty God to avert that visit in whatever form, because again, I tell you for free that that visit is not necessary.
Thank you very
yes,
much, Prof. I'd like to
people.
bring in Mr. Jacob Pele into the conversation. Mr. Pele, earlier you said, you know, you've accepted the situation. The state of emergency has been declared. No need to cry over spilled milk. Now, looking forward, in a few weeks' time, or maybe I think next week, it will be a month since the declaration of the state of emergency, if I'm not mistaken. Going forward, let's be pragmatic here. Do you think at the end of the 6 months, the way things are going with revelations coming every other week, the elders are yet to sit down with the warring parties, would we have a peaceful situation where Governor Fubara will return to Government House in Port Harcourt, or do you think there might be an extension? What will be the ideal case scenario, and what steps need to be taken to get to that point?
Well, it's simple. I don't think it would stay as much as the period of time that is provided in the proclamation. If you go back to what the National Assembly said in their amended proclamation, which received the approval of the House, so to speak, you will notice that they empowered the president to go ahead and first constitute the body of elders, eminent Nigerians, as they put it, that will bring these two warring parties together and begin to have a discussion so that we will get a lasting peace, and then, of course, advise the president to lift the state of emergency. So I want to believe that there is nothing that cannot be resolved. I want to believe that it will be lifted before the 6 months period. I don't see any form of extension. And I will say that on the heels of the fact that they have, even the president, have received a lot of negative feedback as a result of this decision. Well, I don't know if he wants to stand his ground and let the process play out for 6 months, but that's not too healthy for democracy. That's not too healthy for a leader who believes in democracy. It's not good for the state. The earlier that this is resolved, the better. The bringing together the eminent Nigerians that will look into this is a very laudable solution. And so if I go back to how this whole thing started and the president's getting involved, if he had played neutrality, if he had been neutral from day one, we wouldn't be where we are. You know, instead of taking the sided position that he took, that made Nwaeke feels that he's the de facto president. If he had done otherwise, we won't be where we are today. But I want to also use this opportunity first to thank you, News Central, for being forthright, for always bringing this issue to the front burner, but also to thank the dear people of River State and to remind us who we are. We are peace-loving, law-abiding citizens. Let's continue to be that peace-loving and law-abiding citizen that we are. Do not allow anyone to press your button. Do not allow anyone to move you into the street. Remember that these people concerned, their own children are not there. It is you that will shed your own innocent blood, and we cannot afford that. You know, let's continue to be peaceful. Let's continue to let our voices be heard. We will win if we all fight in the moral sense, the fight for democracy. You know, I don't know, if, in case I don't get another chance to say another word, I want to address the president. And I say to you, Mr. President, that the day you were born, you cried. Everyone around you, the whole world rejoiced. Please leave a legacy that the day you die, you will rejoice and everyone around you will cry.
And it's on
Please
that,
be remembered.
yeah.
Go ahead.
We have to go now because we have to get to our next segment, but I believe that the President has heard those words that you wrapped the conversation with. Mr. Jekepele, thank you very much. Professor Benjamin Ogele, Okaba, thank you so much for your time, gentlemen. And we certainly want the best for Rivers State. We want things to return to normal for Rivers State. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for your time and insights.